From the moment the first human pressed a footprint into the mud between two mighty rivers, a question has echoed across history. How did ordinary wanderers evolve into the architects of humanity's very first civilization? To answer that, we travel back over 6,000 years to a land where scorching suns, unpredictable floods, and endless horizons pushed humanity to attempt something no species had ever done: build a world from scratch. This is ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, where the earliest sparks of genius lit fires that would shape every society to come. Picture this. Vast plains stretching endlessly between the Tigris and Euphrates. Rivers that could bless with life or unleash devastation overnight. Into this unpredictable landscape came small groups of farmers and herders who realized that if they could tame the waters through canals, levees, and irrigation, they could create stable food supplies, allowing people to settle, cluster, specialize, and dream beyond survival. The result was nothing short of revolutionary. The rise of the first cities, Uruk with its massive walls, with its gleaming ziggurat dedicated to the moon god Nana, and Lagash, Kish, Eridu, and Nippur, each a living experiment in order, power, and human ambition. Within these walls, life exploded into complexity. Farmers grew barley on irrigated fields. Craftsmen molded clay and hammered bronze. Merchants traveled dusty roads with caravans of goods. And priests climbed towering temple platforms to interpret the will of the gods. But the heart of this transformation beat in the creation of writing. Scribes etched tiny wedge-shaped marks into clay tablets, cuneiform, the world's first written script, unlocking the ability to record laws, myths, trade, astronomy, and royal triumphs with a permanence that defied time. And from those tablets emerged one of humanity's oldest and most profound stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh, a tale of kingship, friendship, loss, and the eternal search for meaning that still resonates across ages. As writing spread, so did power.
Today, the light of the gods shines
Kings
upon
rose,
us,
claiming divine mandate.
signaling a new era for our people.
And city-states competed fiercely for control over fertile lands and river routes. War became organized, strategic, and terrifying. Sumerian armies marched with shield walls, spears, and battle wagons, while rulers boasted of victories carved into steles for future generations to admire. Yet fragmentation also made Mesopotamia vulnerable to outside forces, and it was Sargon of Akkad who saw opportunity in disunity. He forged the world's first empire, stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean, proving that a single ruler could command vast territories and diverse peoples. Under the Akkadians, administration blossomed, trade networks expanded, and cultural exchange accelerated, until, like so many empires after it, internal strife and external pressure brought it down. But Mesopotamia rose again, this time under Babylon. Hammurabi, its most famous king, created a comprehensive legal code, etched in stone, that laid out standards for justice, contracts, property, family, and punishment. His laws, though harsh by today's standards, revealed a society striving for fairness in a world of complexity and consequence. Babylon became a shining center of mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and commerce, continuing Mesopotamia's legacy of innovation. Then came the Assyrians, fierce, disciplined, and relentless. They built a war machine unlike anything the ancient world had seen, using iron weapons, cavalry tactics, siege engines, and psychological warfare to dominate vast regions. Their capital cities like Nineveh and Ashur overflowed with libraries, palaces, and intricate relief carvings depicting battles, hunts, and the power of their kings. Yet even giants fall. And Assyria eventually collapsed under the weight of rebellion and invasion. From the ashes emerged the Neo-Babylonian Empire. With Nebuchadnezzar II at its helm, commissioning colossal building projects, restoring ancient temples, and creating legendary structures that captivated later generations. Through each rise and fall, Mesopotamia continued refining the foundations of civilized life. Codified law, taxation systems, monumental architecture, agriculture, record-keeping, trade networks, and spiritual traditions that influenced faiths for millennia. People studied the stars from ziggurat tops, charting constellations and predicting celestial movements. They divided time into 60 seconds and 60 minutes, invented the wheel, mastered irrigation engineering, and developed early forms of algebra and geometry. But perhaps the most extraordinary part of Mesopotamia's story is how deeply human it remains. Among the thousands of surviving clay tablets, we find not just kings bragging of conquests, but students complaining about homework, families negotiating inheritances, merchants arguing over grain shipments, lovers exchanging tender messages, and priests documenting dreams they believed were whispers from the gods. Mesopotamia was not just a birthplace of civilization. It was a mosaic of everyday lives, hopes, fears, and failures that feel startlingly familiar. Eventually, after thousands of years, new powers swept across the land: Persia, Greece, Rome, each absorbing the region into their empires, each adding new chapters to its ancient story. Cities fell silent as river courses shifted, trade routes moved, and centuries of conflict reshaped the landscape. Yet despite the fading of its cities, Mesopotamia's impact never dimmed. The systems, inventions, myths, and structures created between the Tigris and Euphrates became the blueprint for the world we live in today. Every time we read a book, form a government, sign a contract, divide time, map the night sky, or tell the story of a hero searching for purpose, we echo a legacy born in clay, water, and fire thousands of years ago. Mesopotamia may no longer stand in shining ziggurats and bustling marketplaces, but its spirit exists in every corner of modern civilization. A reminder that the world we inhabit began with a simple, profound human desire to build something greater than ourselves.
Picture a continent clawing its way out of the ashes of a fallen empire, where crowned kings ruled by divine promise, peasants bent under the weight of iron laws, and death itself rode through villages on the breath of the wind. Because the history of medieval Europe is not a quiet stretch of dusty centuries, but a violent, desperate, endlessly dramatic survival saga. that begins in the wreckage of Rome and ends with the modern world already struggling to be born. When Roman roads cracked and legions vanished in the 5th century, Europe shattered into fragments, ruled by warlords who claimed authority through ancestry, conquest, and fear. Turning loyalty into currency and land into power. While figures like Clovis of the Franks fused kingship with Christianity to transform personal rule into sacred destiny, giving birth to monarchies that claimed God's favor even as violence shaped their borders. Amid this chaos, the Church emerged as the one institution that never fully fell, guarding literacy, law, and memory in stone monasteries where monks copied texts while outside their walls, society relearned how to survive without empire. As generations passed, feudalism hardened Europe into a rigid hierarchy where every man knew his place. Knights swore oaths sealed with steel. Lords extracted labor and loyalty. Peasants lived lives dictated by harvests, hunger, and obedience. Trapped on land they could not leave, while castles rose across the countryside. Not as symbols of romance, but as brutal machines of control. Dominating landscapes and enforcing authority through threat alone. The dream of unity returned briefly with Charlemagne. Crowned emperor in 800, who attempted to resurrect Rome itself by standardizing law, education, writing, and governance, igniting a short-lived cultural revival that hinted at what Europe could become, only for his empire to fracture after his death. Exposing a harsh medieval truth that power survived only as long as the ruler who held it.
This strategy will lead to ruin!
My liege,
As
you
internal
cannot
order
expect
struggled
us
to
agree
stabilize,
this. The scouts confirm the movements here. We must act.
external threats arrive like storms.
Blood and fire. We take
With
it
Vikings
all.
carving paths of fire and
Victory
steel through rivers
or
and coastlines,
Valhalla.
burning monasteries, enslaving populations, and founding trade hubs that would become cities,
Knock! Draw! Hold the line! Loose!
forcing Europe to militarize, adapt, and ultimately absorb these invaders into its own fabric. In the East, the Byzantine Empire endured as a living relic of Rome, preserving bureaucracy, diplomacy, and classical knowledge. While to the south and east, the Islamic world surged ahead in mathematics, medicine, astronomy, and philosophy. Creating a powerful counterweight to Europe and a conduit through which ancient knowledge would later return. The collision of these worlds erupted most violently in the Crusades. Where faith became fuel for mass warfare. Peasants and princes marched under holy banners. Cities were slaughtered in the name of salvation. And Europe's horizons expanded through bloodshed, trade, and exposure to ideas that quietly undermined old assumptions. Back home, the medieval church tightened its grip on every stage of life, from baptism to burial, defining morality, legitimizing kings, and terrifying souls. With visions of hell, even as corruption, indulgences, and political ambition eroded spiritual authority from within. Then the 14th century arrived like a hammer blow. As climate shifts triggered famine, bodies weakened, and the Black Death swept across Europe with merciless speed, killing perhaps half the population, emptying villages, silencing churches, collapsing economies, and shattering the belief that the faithful were protected. Because prayer could not stop the dead carts rolling through the streets. In the plague's aftermath, the world stood transformed. With labor suddenly scarce, wages rising, peasants realizing their value, and uprisings erupting as survivors challenged the old feudal order, demanding rights, freedom, and dignity in a society built on their suffering. Kings, threatened by chaos, responded by tightening control, building centralized states, expanding taxation, professionalizing armies, and weakening the power of nobles. While England and France bled through the 100 Years' War, where shattered knightly dominance, castles fell, and gunpowder announced the slow death of medieval warfare itself. Meanwhile, culture quietly evolved as universities spread, books multiplied, vernacular languages replaced Latin, and thinkers began asking dangerous questions about nature, authority, and humanity's place in the universe. Loosening the grip of unquestioned tradition, by the 15th century, medieval Europe stood at a crossroads. Still bound by hierarchy, superstition, and faith, yet restless and transformed, shaped by catastrophe and survival, ready to explode into the Renaissance, the Reformation, and global expansion, proving that the Middle Ages were never a dark pause in history, but a relentless forge of kings, plagues, belief, ambition, and power that destroyed the ancient world and unknowingly built the modern. Because medieval Europe was never asleep for 1,000 years, it was fighting, adapting, breaking, and reinventing itself every single day in blood, prayer, and unrelenting human ambition.
Imagine waking up in a world where gods walk among mortals. Cities rise from bare rock, and ideas are forged that will shape everything from democracy to science to war itself. Because the story of Greece is not just a timeline, it's a living epic that begins in myth and never truly ends. Starting before history with chaos, giving birth to Gaia and Uranus. Titans clashing with Olympian gods, Zeus hurling thunderbolts from Mount Olympus. And these myths weren't bedtime stories, but the way ancient Greeks explained the universe. Power, fate, and human weakness. And from this myth-soaked world, the first real civilizations emerged on the islands and coasts of the Aegean. Where the Minoans of Crete built palaces like Knossos with no walls, because they ruled the sea itself. Followed by the Mycenaeans' warrior kings who built massive stone citadels. buried their rulers in gold. And may have fought a real war remembered forever as the Trojan War.
Hear now the tale of the swift ships and the warriors bold.
A conflict immortalized by Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, where heroes, like Achilles and Odysseus, blurred the line between legend and history. But around 1200 BCE, this Bronze Age world collapsed in fire and chaos. Cities fell, trade vanished, writing disappeared, and Greece entered a so-called Dark Age, where survival mattered more than glory. Yet from this darkness, something radical emerged. The polis, the city-state, fiercely independent communities like Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and Thebes, each with its own laws, gods, and identity. And this fragmentation became Greece's greatest strength and weakness, because competition fueled innovation, art, and philosophy, but also endless war. And nowhere was this contrast sharper than between Athens and Sparta.
For too long, the powerful
Athens
have
experimenting with
ignored your
democracy,
voices.
where citizens
But today,
debated laws and
we
voted,
rise as one. The height of our culture
creating
is measured
drama,
not in
philosophy,
marble,
and
but in the
architecture
virtue of our
that still define
citizens.
beauty today.
Yet virtue, my friend, is
While Sparta became a brutal military society where boys were trained for war from childhood and individual freedom was sacrificed for strength and discipline. And as these city-states grew richer and bolder, they collided with a superpower from the east, the Persian Empire, which stretched from India to Egypt and seemed unstoppable. Yet when Persia invaded Greece, vastly outnumbering them, the Greeks did the impossible. Spartan warriors held the pass at Thermopylae against overwhelming odds. Athenians lured the Persian navy into narrow straits at Salamis and destroyed it. And against all expectations, Greece survived. And this victory sparked a golden age especially. In Athens, under Pericles, where the Parthenon rose, Socrates questioned everything. Plato imagined perfect societies. Aristotle studied logic, nature, and ethics. And ideas were born that still shape how we think. But power breeds fear. And Athens' growing empire terrified its allies, leading to the Peloponnesian War, a devastating conflict where Greek fought Greek for nearly 30 years, draining resources, spreading plague, and ultimately destroying Athens' dominance. Leaving Greece fractured and exhausted, and into this chaos stepped a kingdom long dismissed as backward. Macedon, under Philip II, who used diplomacy, gold, and a revolutionary army to unite Greece by force. But it was his son who would change the world, Alexander the Great,
Advance in unison.
who at just 20 years old launched an invasion that toppled the Persian Empire,
For glory.
marching from Greece to Egypt, Mesopotamia, Persia, and all the way to India, spreading Greek culture across 3 continents, founding cities named Alexandria, blending Greek ideas with local traditions, and creating the Hellenistic world where science, mathematics, and philosophy flourished on a global scale. Yet Alexander died young, his empire shattered among his generals. Greece itself slowly fell under the shadow of a new rising power. From the west, Rome, which admired Greek culture even as it conquered Greek lands. And in a strange twist, Greece lost its political freedom but won a cultural victory as Roman elites learned Greek, studied Greek philosophy, copied Greek art, and passed Greek ideas throughout their empire, ensuring they would never die. And as centuries passed, Greece became a province, then part of the Byzantine Empire where Greek language and Orthodox Christianity fused. Preserving ancient knowledge through the Middle Ages while Western Europe forgot it.
Charge forward!
Till Constantinople fell to the Ottomans in 1453. Beginning centuries of foreign rule where Greek identity survived through language, religion, and memory. It reclaimed not just a nation, but a legacy that still echoes. And when Greece finally fought for independence in the 19th century, inspired by its ancient past, today, because Greece is not just ruins and myths, it is the birthplace of questions. The origin of democracy, drama, history, philosophy, and science. A civilization that rose from legend, shaped the ancient world, survived conquest after conquest, and still defines what it means to ask who we are, where we come from, and how we should live. Imagine a civilization so ancient that its earliest legends whisper of emperors who tamed rivers, battled mythical beasts, and carved order from chaos. This is China. A vast living tapestry woven from more than 4,000 years of dynasties. Rising like thunder and collapsing like dust, a saga of brilliance, brutality, invention, philosophy, rebellion, and rebirth. And today, we're diving through the entire thing in one sweeping journey. It begins with the semi-mythical Xia, where Yu the Great supposedly conquered colossal floods and founded the idea that a ruler's legitimacy hinged on virtue, the mandate of heaven. Concept that would justify every dynasty's rise and fall for millennia. Then comes the Shang, forging bronze so advanced it stunned archaeologists, creating oracle bones that crackled with the earliest known Chinese writing. Only to be overtaken by the Zhou, who expanded China's political imagination with feudal states, grand rituals, and philosophies that still shape the world. Confucius preaching harmony and duty, Laozi guiding seekers toward the Tao, and strategists like Sun Tzu crafting warfare into art. But unity shattered in the Warring States period. The rival kingdoms clashed for dominance until the unthinkable happened. Single ruthless state. Qin under the iron will of Qin Shi Huang unified China for the first time, standardizing scripts, weights, roads, even axle lengths. While building the early Great Wall and a terracotta army of thousands to guard his immortal dreams.
Push forward! Don't let them
Yet his
breach the
dynasty
gate!
burned out as
Fall
fast
back!
as it blazed,
The structure is
collapsing
failing!
in the wake of rebellion. From those ashes rose the Han, one of the greatest empires in history. spreading influence from Korea to Central Asia. Opening the Silk Road to Rome. Inventing paper. Refining bureaucracy. And shaping Chinese identity so deeply that even today, the majority ethnic group still proudly calls itself Han. But the mandate of heaven is fickle. Corruption, eunuch, power struggles, and warlords shattered the Han, plunging China into the chaotic Three Kingdoms Iran. Age of iconic warriors, brilliant strategists,
Charge forward!
and battles that still ignite imaginations. Eventually, the Jin reunited China briefly before nomadic invasions fractured the land again. Leading to the northern and southern dynasties, where culture and religion, especially Buddhism, flourished, even as political unity faltered. Then, like a cosmic reset, the Sui dynasty emerged. Short-lived, but monumental.
Haul the log, move
Building the Grand
earth,
Canal,
build the canal.
Heave! Put your backs into it!
and
Move it, we
reuniting
don't have all
China
day.
at tremendous
Faster.
human cost. Paving the way for one of humanity's golden ages.
Finest silks from the south,
Get your
The Tang
fresh
Dynasty.
produce here.
handcrafted pottery, best prices in the city.
Under the Temps, China became a global superpower of poetry, art, trade, and cosmopolitan brilliance. Where emperors ruled over a multicultural empire, scholars perfected verse. Cities like Chang'an became glittering centers of the world. Until rebellion and power struggles dimmed its radiance. The Song dynasty followed, often militarily vulnerable, yet intellectually explosive. Pioneering gunpowder weapons, paper money, movable type printing, magnetic compasses, and scientific breakthroughs centuries ahead of Europe, while its painters captured landscapes with breathtaking subtlety. But northern invaders, the Jurchen Jin, forced the Song south, and eventually the Mongols arrived.
Attack! Move
With thunderous
forward!
hooves, Kublai Khan conquered China and founded the Yuan dynasty, folding China into the vast Mongol Empire. Where foreign rule reshaped society and opened unprecedented global connections. But heavy taxation, floods, and plague stirred unrest until a peasant monk turned rebel, Zhu Yuanzhang, rose victorious and founded the Ming. The Ming dynasty restored Han Chinese rule. Built the Great Wall into its iconic form. Launched Admiral Zheng Yi's grand voyages across the Indian Ocean and filled the Forbidden City with imperial majesty.
Someone
But
knows
court
we are
intrigue,
here.
eunuch dominance, and
move
economic
quickly.
strain weakened the dynasty
What
as
about
new
the others
northern powers
outside?
grew stronger. Those powers were the Manchu, who swept south to establish the Qing. China's final imperial dynasty, expanding territories to their greatest historical extent. Flourishing under emperors like Kangxi and Qianlong, and cultivating a sophisticated, diverse empire at isolation, corruption, and Western imperial aggression cracked the foundation. The Opium Wars, unequal treaties, the Taiping Rebellion, internal decay spiraled into national crisis until revolutionaries overthrew the Qing in 1911, ending more than 2 millennia of imperial rule and giving birth to the Republic of China. But unity slipped away once again as warlords divided the land. Followed by Japanese invasion, civil war between nationalists and communists, and ultimately the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949 under Mao Zedong, ushering in a new, turbulent chapter: land reforms, the Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution, each reshaping the nation with immense cost. After Mao's era, Deng Xiaoping's reforms transformed China into one of the world's fastest-growing economies, blending market mechanisms with one-party rule and propelling the country into the global arena as a modern superpower. And so, from mythical floods to futuristic skylines, from bronze vessels to quantum research, the story of China is not just the story of dynasties rising and falling, but of a civilization endlessly reinventing itself, carrying forward the weight of its past while reaching for horizons that emperors of old could never have imagined, an unbroken thread of human ambition, resilience, and reinvention stretching across the ages.